Here we go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy, Boulanger. And up next, burning questions answered. Do me a quick favor as we get started. Hit like. If it is your first time checking out the GM, hit subscribe. Also, hit the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's talk about it. So, this is a response to the trade deadline segment of burning questions. And we had 4 questions from the GM in that segment, and those questions were: do the Baltimore Ravens need to make a trade? Expressed need. Number two, if so, at what positions do we need to add pieces? Number three was, will the Baltimore Ravens trade any of their current players? And number four was, if so, which players would be traded? So I'm going to kind of give you a combined answer to all of those questions. So, do the Baltimore Ravens need to make a trade? I believe so. Well, Belanger, why would you say that? Well, Sunday's game left us feeling pretty good about ourselves. It was a huge leap from what we had saw the first 6 games of the season. Okay. But my answer is yes, because those first 6 games of the season do matter. They, in fact, indeed happened. Okay. Yeah, we dominated the Detroit Lions on both sides of the ball. But I think part of that is a result of we were hungry. We were returning home after a long stint on the road, and Detroit was coming in, feeling themselves, and they got punched in their face and laid down, right? And so we didn't really get any resistance from the Detroit Lions. So we came out looking real good at the very end. Super proud of that win. I'm glad we showed up in the fashion that we did. But the first 6 games of this season did happen, and our competition will only get more difficult. Okay. So, question number two was at what positions? Well, I think it's 3 primary positions that could use an upgrade. And I'm going to be super specific with the upgrades as well. So, the first position I'm going to address is wide receiver. I think our wide receiver room is certainly better than what we had last year. And I think it's consistently gotten better weeks after week, except for the Pittsburgh game. But the one thing that's very clear, we don't have that number one type dominant guy. Okay. And I know some of you may say, well, we don't need a number one. Well, I think we do. I think we do because there's going to be a moment where we're going to need that go to guy, and we're going to have to know clearly who that is. It can't be by committee. It has to be a guy that we can go to that can make a play no matter what. Okay, so I think at the position of wide receiver, the Baltimore Ravens either need to go big game hunting and get that number one, or make a supplemental trade, maybe with a 6th round pick, and get another depth piece. Specifically at the wide receiver position, big game hunting, Devontae Adams and or Mike Evans. Those are 2 guys that could be unearthed from their current team. Although the Raiders said they're not trading Devontae Adams, well, I think that just drives the price up if teams come knocking. And then Mike Evans is on a team who has been inconsistent for most of the year. I think they're trying to figure out what they're doing at quarterback. I do not think that Baker Mayfield is a long-term answer. So I think getting off of a big contract like Mike Evans could be something that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are willing to do. So I think those could be, or should be, if we're going big game hunting, 2 targets at the wide receiver position. Okay. I don't want to go middle of the road at wide receiver, somebody like a Corey Davis or somebody like an Adam Thielen. I think that we either need to go big or do a supplemental trade and pick up somebody who can be scraped up, for cheap 6th round pick, something like that. Somebody like a Terrence Marshall, who's a big wide receiver with good speed, has some injury concerns, but still pretty good. Somebody like a Curtis Samuel, who has kind of a high contract in some aspects, but he does have a lot of speed. He is a chain mover. He's 6'1", and he's known to make a play or two, especially with Tylen Wallace out. They could be a sixth or even challenge for that fourth, a sixth or fourth spot. I say six to be the depth piece. Fourth, meaning get some playing time. That's what I'm referring to. Um, Another guy I just thought about who could be a big ticket item would be a DJ Moore. I know that the Chicago Bears just traded for DJ Moore last year, but the Chicago Bears may be in full blown rebuild offensively, and having a big ticket item, a big contract like a DJ Moore doesn't make sense. I don't think they're for sure about what they're going to do at the quarterback position, and simply because they have both uh, their pick and Carolina's pick, they could have two picks in the top five this year, and I think they could get a new quarterback and a new number one wide receiver. So be on the lookout for a DJ Moore as well, somebody who I know is a quality number one type wide receiver. So those are some options at the wide receiver position. All right. Let's jump to another position that I think could use an upgrade, and we're gonna go edge rush. Now I know our veteran edge rushers have been showing up really big. Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy, and then you got Odafe Owe who came back last year, and we don't know about Tyus Bowser or David Ajabo. In fact, I'm a proponent of just leaving Tyus Bowser where he is. He has not contributed to this season. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't really know what the issue is with Tyus Bowser, and I really don't care. He hasn't been a contributor. He's been showing up at games, but not playing, not practicing. So leave him where he is. David Ajabo is a guy who's been mostly out than in, and then even when he's been available, he has not done much at all. And so I think adding a nice piece at the edge rush position could just solidify that for this year and lean into something long term next year. So I know that we've been linked to Danielle Hunter from the Minnesota Vikings. But if we're gonna go big game hunting and really make a splash, I say go after Brian Burns. Bri- Excuse me, Brian Burns is only about 26 years old. He's a proven edge rusher. He's a proven guy who can get to the quarterback. He's mostly healthy, doesn't have any health concerns, and I think that he could even have a better career if he gets with a better, more stable organization other than the one he's with. So I'm saying go big game hunting and go get a Brian Burns. It's probably going to cost us a first and a second and maybe a fourth over the course of the next couple of drafts. But I certainly think that we can go get Brian Burns simply because the Carolina Panthers don't have a first round pick, and they're going to need to trade some of their good players in order to rebuild a depleted a depleted team. Sorry, had a lapse of thought. And I think the other position is running back. Okay. I think the running back position should be a position not really of concern, but a position that could use upgrades, specifically Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry is a guy we've been linked to, and as up until yesterday, I saw an article come out that the Baltimore Ravens are showing interest in Derrick Henry. I don't know the validity of that article necessarily, but I do think that he could be a really good addition to what we have going on offensively. Now, he's not a receiving threat much, but I think that when you have him in the backfield and you have Gus Edwards backing him up and you have Justice Hill backing him up, and then when Keaton Mitchell gets fully healthy, you have him, mixed in, you have some guys who can catch the ball, and you have two dynamic guys, big bruising runners like a Derrick Henry. That backfield will be absolutely scary, especially with Lamar Jackson holding the ball every play and teams having to figure out, do we put 8 in the box, 9 in the box to defend the run, or do we defend the pass? I think that our offense could become scary. But I think if we make a trade for a Derrick Henry, we have to be prepared to offer him a 2-year deal, because I think his deal is up at the end of this year. So we've got to be prepared to offer him a 2-year deal to keep him around, to make that draft capital that we spend worth it. Um, Another position of concern, I won't say it needs an upgrade. I think our secondary has been playing fine, is the cornerback position. I think we got good depth there. We got Marlon Humphrey, Ronald Darby, Brandon Stevens, Kevin Seymour, and Arthur Millette, who's been playing excellent. And so I don't think we have to go big game hunting in that area, only because we already have a big contract in that area with Marlon Humphrey. And so I think we could probably just keep doing what we're doing, because if we add a really nice pass rusher, a number one type pass rusher, that also helps out our secondary. So that's my thoughts on that. Let's jump to the second two questions before we wrap up. Question number three was, will the Baltimore Ravens trade any of their players? And then question number four was, if so, who will they trade? And my initial answer right now is no. I don't see anybody getting traded right now, but I will add a caveat. Um, I think that if we go big game hunting at wide receiver, maybe a Rashad Bateman and a Devin Duvernay, or Devin Duvernay could be on the move if we go big game hunting at wide receiver. Here's why I say that. Rashad Bateman is in that position, that time frame of his contract where the Baltimore Ravens will have to make a decision if they're going to pick up his fifth year option. And right now, what we've seen, that answer is no. They are not picking up his fifth year option, and rightfully so. Well, Devin Duvernay is a free agent at the end of this year. And with a $4.5 million contract right now, I think that putting him into a trade could bring back a nice piece and offset some of that new player's salary, such as, again, a Mike Evans or a Devontae Adams. So I think if we go big game hunting at the wide receiver position, I think Rashad Bateman and or Devin Duvernay could certainly be on the move. Because those other guys are not movable. Nobody's trading for Nelson Aguilar, not because he's not a good player, but because he's just a 1 year rental, and then or half season rental, and then Zay is not going anywhere, and then Odell, he hasn't done enough to be traded or anybody to be really interested. So that's my thoughts, man. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there's another position you guys think we need to add depth at. And and let me hit this right quick. I don't think offensive line is a place we need to make a trade necessarily, only because it'll be difficult to integrate an offensive lineman at this point in the season. It would take them 4 or 5 weeks to get up to game speed and be able to really contribute. And so, if the guys we have are healthy and they're gelling together, I think keep building what's already been built, add some depth to that on the practice squad. But I don't think at this point it's time to make a trade on that offensive line, because a couple of these guys will be gone or at least up for new contracts. Morgan Moses is a free agent at the end of the year, and so is Kevin Zeitler. So making a trade right now to add a piece there doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So listen, I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and we are out.